Yeah, hi there coaches. Okay, so today we move on to week number 4, and I've got my hat on today because my hair is an absolute mess. Sorry about that. So I just thought I'd cover it all up with a hat. So a little bit of a plug there for Black Clover. So week 4 is tactics and formations. Now, tactics and formations is really the way you move your chess pieces around the board, if you like. It's the methodology that gets your players to play. So how you set up your formation will kind of dictate the type of style of soccer you're going to play. And the tactics are really that. They're the style, they're how you're going to play. So the formation is the positions, the tactics is the how. And throughout this week we're going to look at the 5 most popular formations and 6 different tactics of how to play, and you're going to start to get an understanding, and you're going to have to adapt this if you're not doing 11v11, because all of these tactics and these formations work off the 11v11. So if you're not on that level, if you're doing U12 and below, then you might have to make some adaptations. But you'll get the idea of how these formations are structured. So yeah, so we're going to do 5 formations, the 5 most popular formations, and we'll talk about some different tactics of how you play within those formations. We're going to talk about the risk and reward of playing out of the back. The in vogue thing, if you like, in soccer now is to play from the back. Everyone does it. Every single team, it seems, in the world now does it, whereas back in the early 2000s very few teams did it because they weren't good enough. They weren't technically good enough. And I was watching a Gold Cup game last week, might have been the week before, and they were talking about Haiti versus El Salvador, and what they were saying is that the El Salvador team kept trying to play through the midfield, but they weren't technically good enough, so all that Haiti had to do was just keep picking them off, and then they would be on the counter-attack all the time. And it wasn't until the second half that El Salvador realised we can't play this way and started going longer. So, you know, that's tactics, and you know, had the coach noticed that, maybe he would have made a change on the sidelines, maybe he wouldn't, I don't know. But that's the tactics. So yeah, the risk and reward of playing out the back. How do you play out the back? What are the benefits of playing out the back? Why would you risk turning over the ball in your own final third and give the opposition a goal scoring chance? And we'll give you some examples of where it's ended in disaster for some teams very recently, and there's some examples of that in lesson 3, chapter 3. What happens when your formation isn't working? What do you do? How do you change it? How can you change it? What do you try and what systems can you try instead as the coach? What can you do? Can you change the personnel? So what do you do when the formation isn't working? The next chapter is going to be talking about setting goals for single games. So we just talked about playing out of the back. Perhaps you've got a goal for this particular game against this particular opponent to play out the back every single time. So every time the ball goes back to your goalkeeper, he or she has to play a pass to a defender or a midfield player. They have to be able to play that pass accurately to feet so that you can then build from there. Doesn't matter what pressure they're under. Maybe that's a goal that you would set for a game, is that every time the ball's played back to the goalkeeper, they distribute it out to the sides or out to the middle to one of their teammates, but it has to be played out of the back, has to be under a controlled manner. We will talk about the tactics and formations for the younger groups. So we'll give you some different ways of adapting the 11v11 tactics into your smaller groups. The final chapter of this particular week is going to be talking about how you remain flexible. So you never want to marry yourself to a particular tactic or a particular formation or a particular style, because when you're working in the youth game, you work with the players that are available to you, And just because this season you had a really fast forward that you could play through balls to, perhaps next season that forward moves on, or maybe they stop playing altogether, and you then have to adapt, you have to change. You can't then try and force the same tactics to a player that's not as adept at playing that way. And then we've got the summary. So you've got 8 chapters in this week, all working on tactics and formation, and giving you the blueprint, if you like, for being able to go forward and figure out what you're going to do with your particular group of players. Alright, so I will talk to you again in chapter 1. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.